have already posted their 2023-esque videos. So I hope you still enjoy this. I hope it's still interesting. I'm also going to be doing my 2023 favorites still as well. So that'll be coming. But today's video is all about books. Books. For me, I read a lot in 2023. We're talking, I went from maybe 2 books in 2022 to 9, 8, 9. Well, 2 of them are series, so 2 of them have like 5 books each. Anyways, it was a big increase for me, and I definitely have ASMR to thank for that. I feel like ASMR YouTube really re-inspired me to read again this past year, and so thank you for that. Let's jump right in. I don't know the order of the books. I think this is the first book I read in 2023, which was a Colleen Hoover book. Ugly Love is the title of this one, and I will say this is the only Colleen Hoover book that I've read thus far. I really enjoyed it, but then after this one I started getting into other books, so I'll have to return to her. But yeah, I was sucked in with this one, so much so. Definitely is spicy. The spicy meter is high on this one. I don't know, I feel like this one gave me a really good taste for Colleen Hoover, and then after that, I just wanted different things. I think my favorite genre, like, no shame, my favorite genre is fantasy. So that is really what I gravitate towards. More so than, I don't know, what genres is romance, I guess. I like fantasy that has romance. I don't know, the more, like, real life it is, the less I want to read it. I crave true, like, escapism in my media forms, whether it's like movies, shows, or books. So yeah. But I am really glad this was my first introduction to her, because it was a good one. I definitely think I'll come back and read some of her other books. I never even took off the Target sticker. I really liked her name of the main character, Date Collins. I thought that was a really cool name. I also liked her writing style a whole lot. Just like sometimes it felt very poetic a bit, especially from his perspective when she switched it over. Like, I'm trying to find, oh yeah, an example. Like where it's like shorter lines like this. It's not always long paragraphs, and it kind of felt like poetry sometimes. I don't know. I also loved the mystery aspect for sure. You really didn't know his backstory, and when it hits you, you're like, oh my god, it was heart-wrenching. She really built up that moment well. And I had a lot of theories, but what happened was not one of my theories. I love when authors surprise you. Yeah, so agreed. I really do think this was the first one. A really good first book for 2023. always really liked her, and when this came out, heard so many good things. I don't know, I felt like I, in a way, owed it to this sweetheart to read her story. And yeah, I don't think this book is really for everyone necessarily, but for those of us who have a very complicated relationship with our mother, which I do, love my mother, but it's complicated. I don't know, this was, I enjoyed this, and I found a lot of perspective, and also gratitude from my mom, because while we do have our issues, it wasn't to this level, you know. So I was grateful for that, for a lot of the positive attributes my mom does have. I also love the humor in this. She really makes you laugh. You know, you gotta prepare for this one. This really isn't escapism. It's not necessarily like a fun read. I also didn't read it before bed, if that makes sense. I usually read it during the day on a weekend. It took me a couple weeks. I did not blow through this really fast. I did it in chunks, if that helps you at all. I loved her level of honesty here, like deep honesty, and it gives you so much respect for her. I really can't wait to see what she does next. Also, this cover is hilarious. Also, unsurprisingly, it's also a great look into what life is like for a child/young teen actor. I would not want that life. I don't know. I've personally never had the desire to be in Hollywood or to be an actress, but my heart goes out to a lot of the kids that have been through what she's been through. I've also resonated a lot with the, I guess a quick trigger warning, a lot with the weight talk in this. I'm not going to talk too much really about that, but I appreciated a lot of the things she said and resonated with the difficulty and pain of that topic, especially when it comes to a relationship with your mom, who can often never see you as healthy enough. Anyways, don't want to get too deep into that. But yeah, if, read what this book is about, and if you feel like this is something that'd be good for you, definitely read it. Recommend. If you think it'd be triggering, don't read it. You don't need to. Stay away. Okay, I think the next thing I read was a series, an old series, nothing new, a series I've read before, but I ended up going through the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. This came out a while ago. This came out, I or like crazy clever, like the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. Like that writing is good and clever and like really thought through. I'm not saying this is bad writing, it's not. It's just not at that level. So this is definitely also written for, like, this is definitely a teen romance series. So don't expect like as complicated style of writing. I hope I explained that in a way that made sense. I think this is one of those series that I really love now because I loved it when I was younger. It's nostalgic for me. And I like the plot line a lot. Book 3 is really good. I really like what the author decided to do. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but there is like time jumping, like the main character kind of jumps through time and gets to see different lives and stuff like that. So, and like different periods of time. And I loved that. I love history. I love time travel in books. So I think that's one of my favorite aspects of this series. The third book is definitely my favorite. Very introspective. I feel like in a lot of like romance and sometimes like fantasy novels, like the main character will really quickly fall in love with someone, but not all the time do they really ask why. And in this series, she really asks why, and she goes to find out. Like, she doesn't just accept it, she wants to find out why herself. And I really like that. I like that strong female moment for her. Okay. Ooh, I think next. Okay, that series is 4 books, so I read those 4. I didn't bring them all out. I just figured the first one would suffice. Then I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Songbirds and Snakes, which is the Hunger Games prequel, and the movie came out in November, right? I read this in August, September timeline, I think. And love this. It's one of my favorite books I've read in the past, I don't know, 2-3 years. That's not a ton of books, but for me, I think it's one of my top favorites. If you liked The Hunger Games but you haven't read the book, you should read this. The movie did a good job, but not enough. I think it missed so much. So many moments that are just so good, especially like the last third. The book just kills it, and the movie just didn't have time to do it all. So if you saw the movie and liked it, then definitely read the book. So many plot twists, so many surprising moments. I have watched a lot of shows and movies and books over the years, and sometimes you can kind of like predict what's going to happen. I could not predict what was going to happen in this book, and that's what made me love it so much. I also love her choices of when to spend a lot of time describing things and when not to. Not every moment and scene and backdrop needs a ton of description, and she doesn't overdo it, but she gives you enough. I mean, look at this, it's pretty long. I think it's like 400 as you're reading it, which is really cool and hard to achieve, I think, really, with the main character. I actually did a quick ASMR book review of this one. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. This was just one I had to do a dedicated review for. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about this. If I could read it again for the first time, I would. I really would. Yeah. Her pacing is really good. There's always something interesting happen. Like, you keep wanting to turn the page. Obviously, like as usual, I think the beginning is a bit slower, but I was still really intrigued. I love a slow burn, so I don't mind a little bit of slowness in books. That being said, I would not consider this slow at all. Just like compared to the end, like I said, the last third of the book, it's fast. It's like you're flying. It's amazing. I think the last thing I'll say is that by the end of this book, you understand why he viscerally, or is the word viscerally? I think it's viscerally. He viscerally hates Katniss. You understand now why the second he meets her in the Hunger Games, like where his anger is from. You get it. It's cool. Okay. Oh gosh. This is where it gets muddy. There's like 3 books. I am not sure what order I read, so I'm not gonna do this in any order. Okay, then we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I know I'm so late with this. This was like super popular quite a while ago, but I finally read it and I loved it. Again, out of my normal wheelhouse for sure. Because it's like fiction, but not. I don't know, it feels a little more autobiographical, but also still like a fun story that could be real. I don't know. It was great. I loved how it was broken up. I loved learning about each chapter of this woman's life and how she told it, and her wittiness and her focus on herself. Like, I don't know, I just thought she was so cool. And I loved how the author chose to tell this story. It's just a fun read. I think really anyone, this is one of those books, anyone could pick it up and enjoy it, both like men and women. Like, I really do think my husband would actually enjoy this, which, you know, sometimes with books, they're more feminine focused, female driven, written for people who identify as female. But yeah, I think anyone could enjoy this really of any age as well. I even think my mom would like this, which is saying something. I'm really glad I decided to read this. I was actually visiting my friend who is really picky about what she reads, and I saw this on her shelf and I was like, babe, like, you have this, and she's like, it's so good, do you want to borrow it? And I said yes. I still need to give this back. I have not seen her since borrowing it, so I will be giving this one back. But when I saw it on her shelf and knowing how picky she is, if she said it's good, then that means it's really worth the time. So it was an easy yes for me. I even like started reading it on the car drive home. That day I got it. fantasy books. Go me. I feel like I actually stepped a little more outside of my normal zone this year now that I'm thinking about it. This book was amazing, so I'm so happy I did. I feel like I just had to note that for a second, that I was being a bit contradictory with what I said versus what books I actually read. But yeah, The Midnight Library, I was so surprised by the simple powerfulness, if that makes sense, of this book. I was just really deeply impacted. Yeah, this is like with the I'm Glad My Mom Died book. I don't think this is for everyone. As like another trigger warning, there is like, this does talk about suicide. And even though like I personally have never dealt with any kind of suicide ideation, this still had such a powerful effect on me. I walked away like reinvigorated about life. Like I felt re-inspired, re-motivated to really go after life, and I felt really refreshed and positive and hopeful for the future. Like, it was really cool, and it's really amazing that books can have that impact on you. So again, like, I really think look into what this book is about and then decide if you think it'll be helpful for you. I do think for certain people who might struggle with that, this could be really helpful, but kind of decide for yourself. You never want to read something that makes you feel worse rather than better. But I thought it was so powerful and beautiful, and this is definitely like a slower read. This isn't fast paced. This takes its time. You feel like you're in the moment. You're slowly turning the pages. You're slowly absorbing what's happening. So this is definitely a slower, cozier read, I feel. Kind of like over the course of a few evenings on the couch, with a blanket and hot tea. That's the vibe. I actually, I've told this story, but I had never heard about this book. I just hadn't. And I was at the airport about to go on a trip, and I wanted to grab a book, and I saw this cover, and I thought this was Little Plain Windows. So I thought this was about a woman who traveled, like standard traveling around the world. I was very wrong. This is actually timestamp, like exactly midnight 000. So silly me about that, but so glad that I grabbed it, even though it was not what I was expecting. Satisfied. There's like a clear beginning, middle, end. Like, you definitely want to know what happens, but there's not some like humongous cliffhanger. So it could be like a standalone for you if you don't feel like going on. But I really enjoyed this. I think I talked about this in a video a couple months ago when I read it. But what I loved about this is this is how they're formed, this is how they live, this is how they die. I thought it was really unique and refreshing. And I liked that it's not just from one perspective. You get to switch between all three perspectives of the three main characters. And that doesn't always happen with like books with multiple characters. Sometimes it's just the one person. And I really enjoyed that aspect as well. I also feel like she fit a lot in this book. Like, this felt like a really good length book. The typeface was, quite small, so it fit more words than other books might. But I really enjoyed this, and I'm really excited for the second one. Also, the names are really interesting, and yes, the writer Hannah Gaynor is Northumbrian in Scotland, and I feel like she put a lot of thought into her names. The girl is Kissen, the man is Elogast. I think it's Elogast. Sorry, it's been a couple months since I read this. And then there's a little girl, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she has a cool name too. Anyways, I love when authors choose really unique names. I think it adds to the depth of the story sometimes, and it makes it more enjoyable to read their name over and over again. Just a small thing. If you like fantasy, this is a great read. This is easy but interesting, for sure. And you very quickly have a lot of empathy for all of the characters in this story. Also, the opening, like literally the first 5 pages, it's a strong, bold opening. It pulls you in so fast, which is always fun. Okay, we're moving on to the last thing I read, which is a series, which is none other than the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is actually the second book because I just felt like tapping on this one. Also, out of the 5, this is my favorite, the second one. I'm actually going to do a spoiler included review of the whole series that I've been really excited to do. So I'm going to save a lot of my thoughts for that. But I ended 2023 by reading this insanely amazing series, and I'm so happy I did. It was such a fun thing to read the last 2 months of the year. I had a friend who read this, and she read the whole series in 4 days, and then was so depressed. You know how it goes. The book depression is real, and she regretted reading it that fast. And when she told me that, I made a point to really hold out, and so I started at the beginning of November, and I finished it near the end of December. I really tried to pace myself and take some time. I actually, after book 3, I took a break, read book 4, took a break, read book 5, and it was definitely hard to do because I wanted to go through it all, which is amazing. This is another series where I thought it was just the 5 books, and by book 4, I realized, no, it's not over. She's still writing, which was sad. I thought I was gonna be able to like get to the end, but no, she's coming out with more, which, not complaining at all, but I thought the series was done. So good. Some of the best writing out there that I've read. I love her style very, very much. You know, sometimes books will like skip scenes and skip moments you want to see. She gives you every moment, every scene, every conversation, and even when you think that she's skipped a conversation, she'll go back to it and give it to you. I love all the dialogue. You really get all the moments, and it's really what makes me love this so much. I have so many thoughts about this series, but I really do want to do a whole dedicated video, so I'm really gonna save my thoughts. I definitely want to read the rest of her stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna jump right into it right now, but sometime this year I'm definitely going to explore her other universes. I know I will love them as equally. I know I will. Yeah, I'm so happy I finished the year with this series. There was something so amazing, like after Christmas, to sit in bed every evening when the house was quiet, I didn't have work to do, and to read that final 5th book. I'll like cherish those moments that I had. If you read books, you know what that's like. To feel like you're having like a special moment that no one can like interrupt or take away. It feels like an activity, like you're doing something. Anyways, corny. But yeah, those were all the books I read in 2023. I am really proud of myself. I know that there are ASMR artists out there who read so much more than I do, and their like videos were full of so many books. But like I said, compared to 2022, I like increased my reading by like 100%. So I am so happy. Not only that, I loved every book I chose. There were no duds for me this year, and that was cool too, to feel like you're not wasting your time on a book you don't like. So